Okay, my scripture that I chose to do that I really like is from Luke, the very first chapter. And the first chapter is about Mary and Zacharias and Elizabeth and Mary conceiving. And my favorite verse out of this is 28, and it says, "The angel came unto her and said, Hail, thou art highly favored, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou among women." And I love it because I think it's awesome and an honor. I can't imagine what the type of woman she was to be able to hold Jesus. And I just, with me holding a baby just like Mary is, the connection that she must have had with Jesus and the connection I have, it makes me get all jittery thinking about it, and I just think it's really cool, and that's what I like about this scripture. I will say prayer. Our dear kind, gracious Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for this day and the opportunity to come to math class and to learn more. And we're grateful for the opportunity to have a better education. And we're grateful for the gospel and the blessings it brings into our life. And we ask that you bless us, that we will have the Spirit with us, and that our minds will be open and alert, and that we will continue to have a safe day. And we say these things through thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Last class we talked about factors and multiples. Students frequently get these two mixed up. So we ask you to, in the homework, to talk or to think about some places where in English, not math, the word factor is used. Somebody got an example of that? Yeah.
I know a lot of people, when they're making a decision, they take in all the factors
Okay.
and they try and figure out what they need to do, so it's kind of an assessor to the decision.
Consider all the factors before making a decision. There's a good use of it. Now think of how that's used. Yes?
I remember, like, cause and effect, like that factor was part of the effect of what happened kind of thing. Like, there was that one thing.
One of the factors that caused this to happen was, okay. Anybody else have a use?
In history class, we learned about the factors that went into the war or something.
Okay, the factors that contributed to the war. Yeah.
When you're doing like a science experiment, I mean, there is some math related, but it's mostly science, and so like when you're doing an experiment, you have to factor in all the different possibilities that could happen, like the different environments that could affect your results.
What are the factors that affect the result of this experiment? When we talk about factors in these different ways, what does it mean? What's the meaning? Factors that contributed to war, the factors that play into the outcome of an experiment.
I think it helps you see that the factors, like small things that make up the big thing.
Like parts.
Yes.
Okay. Does that have anything to do with the mathematical definition of it? Yesterday we developed a hands-on way of determining the factors of 24, right? Each of those factors are what? A part, right? And all of them except for one were smaller than the number itself, right? Okay. What was the one that, the 24 was, it's a factor, every number is a factor itself, and that's the only one that's not smaller, right? But all the rest are smaller. Let's go to multiples. Real life examples of multiples. How do you use the word multiple in the real world?
Multiple birth, more than one.
Multiple birth. What's the typical birth with humans? One. So when we have multiple births, it's, okay. Anybody else have the word multiple that's not really a math term?
Just like multiple people in the class.
Okay.
Multiple choice.
Multiple choice. So all of these words mean what? More than one. Any other meanings for it? Many. Okay. What does that have to do with our word multiple in mathematics? In number theory.
What if multiples can be infinite? Because it just keeps going. There's more you, like for example, if you have 6 and like if 12 is multiple of 6, like you'll just keep going like
12,
4 and
18, 24, 30,
it goes
and
on.
it doesn't ever end.
Right.
We would hope that the births would, right? That wouldn't go forever. Twins are probably more than any, no. But, so we could take the one single birth and multiply it by 2 to get twins, or multiply it by 5 to get, what? How do they call it? Quintuplets? Quintuplets, yeah. Okay, so you multiply by it. All right, good. And she said something that makes us distinguish between factors and multiples. She says multiples, there are an infinite number of them. Is that true about factors? There's always a finite number, right? Because they're the parts, as we were talking about, the pieces that make up factors that go into, to use our English. I think the more, the reason I do this is because I think this idea of connecting, making connections is huge in teaching math. You want to connect mathematics to other topics, to English, that's what we just did, okay? If they have something up there that they already own, that they know, that they already possess, and you can just take the mathematical idea and connect it, hook it into, make a mental hook into what they've already owned, you've given them a step up. Do you follow what I'm saying? Connections. You also want to connect within mathematics. So connect their number sense to their algebra to geometry. And you're saying, there's connections between all those? Yes. Hopefully we'll see some of them this semester. Okay. What I would like you to do now is we're going to use I want you to get into groups of 4. This is perfect. Perfect. Let's see here. Oh, we'll let you go join these group of 3, and that'll make these 4 here. And then let's go 4, 4, you 4, and I guess we're going to have 2 groups of 3 back there. Okay. Because we don't have a multiple of 4. Okay, see how many times we use this? All right. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to play the last word. So, number off. Doesn't matter who. You guys are going to go to 3. Everybody else will go to 4. Everybody got numbered? Who's going to be? All right. You're going to start with number 1. Number 1 is going to share the idea that they came up with for doing a hands-on, concrete way to teach multiples. Everyone's going to listen in the group, and then person number 2 is going to share their method, and after they've shared it, the second person says, I think the very best out of these 2 is, and this is a value judgment, and it's okay, it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, I think the best one, you could say, the first one that shared, or you can say, I think the one I just shared is the best, if you think it is. Number 3 then gets, are you 3? Okay. Number 3 then shares the third method and says, I think out of these first 3, that, and they name which one they think is the best. And then number 4, this time, or number 3 in your case, after you've shared yours, you'll say, I think the very best method is, and you might say, because, okay, not just, all right. And so, number 4 or number 3 gets the final word. Just a way to share in groups. Any questions about how we're doing? Okay, move right along, because all 4 have to share. Go.
It's okay if I film you guys.
Do you want me to use it?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I just misunderstood.
Never mind. Okay, so I was going, I'll show you. This is my example, like all the drawing of this. But I would put a piece of paper just like this, and I would just do 3 times 1, change the line, and then so like 4, and then I have multiple. So I'm doing multiple steps. And so they would have to fill this out with the tiles, with the tiles, and they would have to put in 3 tiles Okay, so this is one.
Okay. I'd like to hear 2 or 3 of these. Somebody who had the last word, who said this is the best. If you think you've got really a good one from your group, raise your hand and share. Person number 4 or 3 if you're in the back group. Got one?
We couldn't decide which was the best.
Oh, some good ones, real good ones. Okay.
She shared about Legos. She's like, instead of using the blocks that you had, she would use Legos because they have like the 2, and then they have 4, and then they have 6, so like they keep increasing. And you could use like 3, 2 to put on top of the 6, and that would show factors and multiples, because you could be like 2 and 3 is a factor of 6, but 6 is a multiple of 2 and 3.
So I'm not quite sure how Legos. The Legos they articulate with each other, right? So one that's too long and
It would like be 2 by 1, so they just like have 2 things, and so you would stick 2 or 3 of the 2 on like a 6, and had 6 little legs or whatever.
okay.
And so I thought that was really good because I would never have thought of like.
So you're saying then 2 times 3 is 6, so there's a multiple of, okay.
And then the other one that we really liked was, like you roll a dice and whatever
A
number
die?
it is, yeah, and then
2 dice, 1 die. It's plural. Like 1 index, 2 indices. Yeah?
I didn't know that.
1 matrix, 2 matrices.
I knew that one.
Your appendix, 2 appendices. 1 goose, 2 geese. Yeah, it's 1 die, 2 dice.
Okay, so you roll a die.
Okay.
And whatever number it shows, like if you get a 2, then you put 2 of the blocks that we had, and you put it in a row, and then you keep adding 2, and each time you add 2, that's a multiple of the original.
So you're working with the multiples of 1 through 6 is all?
Yes.
Okay. All right, anybody else want to share one they thought was cool? Yeah.
She had a cool one that she had come up with her aunt, she said, and she actually has a picture of it on there, called the Factor Ninja, but you could do it for the multiples, where you kind of like hit the multiple. If the multiple's 24, you hit it and see what pieces, you chop it, see what pieces come out. So it goes in the factors, but you could make that work for multiples.
They are related, right?
If you had, especially if you said, you know, what kind of 6 can we find in this? If you chopped this and had a 6, what would be the other piece left over? Well, 4, you know, if you're timesing.
Okay.
Because they're related. But.
All right. Let's get a little violence there. Okay. Anybody else have one they want to share? Yeah.
Well, hers was really good. She was talking about using tiles, and it was kind of like the same thing that we used to do with factors, but the way that she was going to do it was like, she would give them a certain amount, and then they would just like make a rectangle, and so it would be like 3 by 5, and then they would count the numbers.
So what amount, you give them 15 you mean,
Well,
or?
or however many, like if you wanted them to find out 24, then they would set it up 6 times 4. And then they would just count them, see how many tiles they have, and that's 24. So then they would know that it's 6 times 4 is 24.
So how do
And
they
so it
learn
gives them,
multiples?
it gives them hands-on dealing with the numbers, and then things figured out on their own.
I'm trying to see how that's different from what we did yesterday.
Well, I guess it's kind of the same factor.
And they are related,
Well, like I was saying that, like if I give them 30 tiles, right? Instead of like how we were doing the factors where we would take those 30 tiles and make one shape and then like take away that one and then make it another out of all the 24 ones that we did. I was saying if we just give them 30 and then like we have them like make different shapes but don't take them apart. So if they have like 4 in a square and then they can make another rectangle of like 2 and 6, so like don't take apart your previous one. And so they have a bunch of rectangles or squares, whatever they come up with, and then they can see like the ones on the side. So if there's like 4, then they have 2 and 2, but then they can count up the middle ones, which is 4, which will be the multiple. So as many tiles as you have, you can just count them all up and know that that's the multiple of the ones on the side.
Okay. Okay.
I thought ours were kind of the same. They were kind of like simple so the kids could understand. Just like tell them we're going to find the multiples of 6. And so give them a bunch of the tiles and then tell them to make a row of 6 and then just like add another row of 6 and count that up and it equals 12. So 12 is a multiple of 6. And then add another row of 6, count that up. 18 is a multiple of 6. And so
This one's really clear that it's a multiple. You're going to have to, you can work yours, but you've got to make sure that you, so just make a row of 6 and then make another row of 6. See what the total is. Make another row of 6, write the total. What have you got there? A list of the multiples, yeah.
Mine's really simple too. You just count by a certain number. So if you're doing multiples of 3, you would do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18.
Just skip counting.
Yeah, and then that's so simple. You don't have to use blocks, you don't have to use anything else.
It's not hands-on. Why would we want to use hands-on? Why did I,
You have to work with different learners, so some of them are visual learners and some are kinesthetic, which means they need to move around during class rather than just sitting and taking.
And this would work really good for auditory learners if they're doing it out loud, okay? Or if you're writing it down. But for some people, if you write 3, 6, 9, those are just a bunch of numbers and they don't. But if I see that there's 3 rows of a row of 3 blocks, and then I put 3 more, that's a total of 6, and then 9, and they can see that. I think we need to get all of it going. And so I would recommend starting with objects, not necessarily blocks, Legos, whatever you want to use. Then go to having them do it out loud, 3, 6, 9, and then have them write it, but do it in that progression.
So we're kind of combining some of our ideas based off that last idea. You've got your 3, 6, 9, or 2, 4, or 2, 4, 6, 8, if you're doing cues or whatever, that you use for the kinesthetic plans. Use hula hoops and have your students in the hula hoops. That way they're
Doing what? This or?
no, like in a group. Have the hula hoops down on the floor and have them move into the hula hoops.
Okay.
So you've got 2 students here in the hula hoop, and then you've got another 2 students here, and you add
in another
and add 2 students.
hoop.
You've got 4. Add another hula hoop and 2 students, and you've got 6.
Okay. Anybody else have one that want to? All right. We're going to move then. We're going to talk about 2 things. One is, I had forgotten completely since it was our first quiz. Did anybody else remember? Did anybody take the quiz? Okay, I didn't think so. That's okay. I'll open it up. You can take it any time you want today. You'll have 5 minutes to complete it. Just get in there and do it. Normally it will be, we'll start right when class starts, and you'll have 5 minutes, and then we'll have the devotional right after. Okay, yeah.
So, some of the assignments, their due date is kind of weird.
Yeah,
It's
they'll be
September.
fixed.
Okay.
They'll be fixed,
So
they're coming.
then there is stuff due on Monday then?
Every single time we come to class, there will always be an assignment,
Okay.
okay? Always, no exceptions. Yep. So it's just, I'm trying to get all of my sections, 5 sections, all caught up to date, and
What time will it close, the class today?
midnight,
Oh,
okay? All right. One other thing, I wanted to, people were asking about the personal resource, so let's spend just a minute or two on talking about that. I'll just show you a couple of previous ones that you might so there's 2 sections, one on teaching ideas and one on the course content. In the teaching ideas, you ought to divide it up into general ideas that you can use no matter what topic or subject you're teaching. And then there are some specific ideas that work best for just one particular idea. I would suggest that a minimum of 1 of these ideas per day, minimum, that we come to class. That make sense? So every night as you sit down and do your homework, say, what went on, or you maybe even do it during class, what went on during class that I learned about teaching? Does anybody have anything today at all that we've talked about that you might put in your teaching journal? Yeah.
I like the idea of the hula hoops.
Okay. Is that specific or general?
Probably general, but you could, I was thinking for it for like multiples or factors, we could put it in all kinds of things.
So you might be able to use it in other settings, perhaps. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah.
I really liked how you asked us to define the math terms, but not using math terminology. Like, what does a factor mean outside of math? So that it helps you to understand what a factor would mean inside of math.
So the idea of making connections from the new material you're teaching to something a student already has. That's something that could go in there. Anybody else?
I liked how you talked about how they need to do hands-on first and like then move on to the other things and like that pattern to follow when you're doing all the different subjects so that you can get more of the students to actually understand the concept.
Okay, so there's a team, and that's just happened just today. Anybody else? Yeah.
So we actually use the word multiple in like our daily lives. Like we don't realize it that how much math we're actually using
Okay.
every day.
Okay. What about the final word strategy? I set up, you work in a group of 4, you share. The last person gets the final word of which one. That doesn't have to be done in math. You can do that in social studies or science or whatever. You see what I'm saying? There are all kinds of things if you are alert. Now, some of these you're saying, that's stupid. I don't believe, whatever. You take what you think. This is your personal resource. It's not mine. Okay? Make it yours. But make it so that if there's an idea there, and you think it's worth having, get it recorded so that as you move on into your student teaching in your own classroom, you can go back and look at it and record it. Let's see, here's a, let's see, that's that one. Oh, I didn't show you the rest of that one. So there's the content part contains the reflection questions that if you look down further in the unit, there is a set of questions that you're going to need to answer. Some of you will wait until the night before it's due to start it. But you can download the questions now, and as we learn different topics, you can answer them as we go, so that when we get to the end of the unit, guess what? You're done. And you haven't procrastinated. And you don't have that big all-night session to get it done. Okay? you can see there are a bunch of these questions, and it's going to take a while for the answers. The other part of the content course is the glossary and symbols. And if you look down below, I even have a set of vocabulary words, a glossary, where I have all the words in the unit already listed. You're going to put, for example, we've already talked about factors, and we've talked about multiples, right? Well, that's one of them. Let's see. Here's another one. There's their glossary. They bulleted this one. Here's their reflection questions. So they've left the question in bold, and they left their answer in unbolded. Here's their teaching ideas up here. So now, if you don't like Word, use PowerPoint. If you don't like PowerPoint, use what? What do you want? I've had students put their thing on a website and give me the link, like Weebly or one of these that are free. I've had people take the reflection questions and they get a camera set up and they record the question, and then they explain in an answer with standing by a chalkboard or a whiteboard and doing that, and then they save that and they send me the links to the YouTube videos that they've uploaded that explain that. However you want to do it. But teaching and content. Within the teaching there are specific and general, and within the content we've got the reflection questions and the vocabulary and symbols of the unit. Okay? Is that a little better understanding of, so you can actually get started on this as we move through, you can complete it so you don't crash at the end having to put it all together in one time. All right. Next, we'd like to give you a chance to get feedback on your autobiography. So if you'll either pull it up on your computer, if that's the way you brought it, if you will pull it out, if you printed it out so you can exchange it, just trade with the person next to you, and I think we have an even number, so we're good to go today. And let me just show you this. For those of you who are using Word, if you would like to do this, let me just show you here. Let's just say I wanted to make a comment about this. So I highlight this part that I want to make a comment about, and then I go up to, oh come on now, WordPad. I'm not in, what's that? Did it open in WordPad? So let's just see if this will open it in Doc. No, that's not what I want. I want it to open in, there's where we do it. Other. Word. Here we go. No wonder it wasn't working. So let's just say that you've got something, and I want to make a comment about this teaching idea. Actually, it's about the autobiography. So I come here, and I go up to Review, the Review menu. And then, what I want to do is I'm used to a Mac, so let's see here. Show markup. I want to make a comment in here. Where is it? New comment, there it is. So hit new comment. And if it's your computer and you've logged in there, you'll actually have your name there. But don't worry about it. Just say, you need to do this here, and there it is. And then it shows where it is they need to make that change. Does that make sense? So if you have a comment or a grammar thing or a suggestion or whatever, you can do that if you want as well. So, read your partners, give them some feedback. I think if they've got it printed out, go ahead and write right on it, because you've got it word processed and saved, and then just take your comments and incorporate it tonight. Tonight's assignment is going to give me the final draft. At the end of each unit. Okay. Class, we hope you've given your partner some really good feedback tonight as part of your assignment, which will show up in 15 minutes or less after you leave class. Part of it will be do your final draft and upload that, okay? Let's do two different uploads. Let's do one of your autobiography final draft and another one. Did you know when you get done, you click upload, and then you can browse to your other one. You can do multiple files. So do one for your autobiography and one for all the rest. Okay? Okay? There'll be, that's not all you have for homework. So there'll be some other things besides finish your final draft. Okay? Don't hit submit. Browse again and go to that other one. And then put, maybe put your name and put autobiography by the one under the description and yeah. Yes. No, I don't want the rough draft. I want it cleaned up. That's all I want to read. Yep. Yep.
Is it okay if we did put in a copy of the rough draft to the time we're doing?
That's fine. Not a problem. I don't need it, but if you put it, not a problem. Great. Okay, take some notes. Get some notes out. You're going to want to take some notes. Some of you may have come into this class believing that there's only one kind of number. Not true. Okay? There's a cardinal number. This is the one we're probably most familiar with. The number 3, 8, 11. A cardinal number tells how many. Okay? What other kind of numbers are there?
Ordinal?
Ah. Ordinal. What's an ordinal number? Well, it doesn't tell how many, or it would be cardinal, right? The name is the hint.
Is it like what order?
Order. So 5th, 1st, 12th. Okay, so it gives the order. Okay? Anybody think of another way to use numbers besides telling what order or how many? Yeah, try it.
It is a guess, but empirical.
Empirical. What would it be?
Like, that is just guessing.
Okay. Let's not play a guessing game. Let's just give it to you. Nominal. Anybody knows their root words? Nom. Anybody know nom de plume? Anybody heard of that? That's French for what? Yeah, what kind of name? Pen name. It's a fake name that somebody writes under. Okay. Name. This is a number that is used as a name. What do I mean by that? Well, here there are several examples of that. One is your telephone number. It doesn't tell how many, right? And it certainly doesn't tell anybody the order of anything. But the number is a number that's associated with what I dialed to have my phone ring yours, right? Somebody think of another Yes.
Your school ID.
Your school ID has nothing to do with how many people are here at BYU Idaho, right? Your BYUI number. It doesn't tell what order you joined or registered here, but it identifies, it's like a name. So why are we using a number for a name in this case, for example? Why would they give you a number name instead of just using your own name?
There might be more than one Rachel then.
Yes, in fact, there are some people are here under 5 or 6 different same person or same name, 5 different people. But if we assign them an I number, that becomes their name. Okay. Any other ideas of yes?
Social Security number.
Social Security number. It's not order. It's not how many. Okay. There used to be some kind of patterns that if you told me the first 3 prefixes, I could tell you the state that you were born in and got your. That isn't true anymore, but. Driver's license number, and some of those numbers, at least here in Idaho, have letters in them as a part of it, right? Yeah. Your license plate. The number on there isn't a certain order or how many, it's just a name for your car, right? So that it can be identified. These are good examples.
Your postal code.
Yes, zip codes are nominal numbers. Yes. Okay. Today, we're going to talk about a nominal number, and someone talked about, was it you, Social Security number? We're going to investigate. Social Security numbers have how many digits? Okay. The Social Security number we're going to investigate is this. Is there such a number? If so, is there more than one? If not, how do we know there's not a number that fits these requirements? If I take the first digit of the 9-digit Social Security number, that 1-digit number, is divisible by 1. And if I take the number formed by the first 2 digits, that number is divisible by the number 2. You following me? If I take the first 3 digits of this Social Security number, the number formed by these first 3 digits, in other words, this number, it's divisible by 3. That means when we divide it by 3, the remainder is 0. Right? If I take the number formed by the first 4 digits, this number is divisible by 4. Do you get it? All the way to the end. So the number formed by those would be divisible by 8. These would be divisible by 6. This one would be divisible by, that number right there would be divisible by 5. And this whole number, the entire number, would be divisible by 9. Now here's the rule. You can't use the number 0. And you must use the digits 1 through 9 exactly once. Okay? So the question is, does such a number exist? If it does, how many of numbers that I just described, how many exist? If they don't exist, can you prove that there are none? If there are some that exist, can you find them? Go. What can you tell me about this number?